I'd
Yeah.
like an opening.
Yes, and sorry, for my opening, for the plea, the respondent is framing this as an all or nothing. It really isn't. The court is being asked to throw out the entire case, but the only basis for that is under Chapter 152 of the Family Code, which is the UCCJEA, because the child was born in Singapore and is living there. But Chapter 152 governs one thing and one thing only, a child custody determination. It doesn't govern parentage under the UPA, and it does not govern child support under the UFSA. And those come from chapters
I'm sorry,
160.
slow down. You're speaking fast. It doesn't govern child support under the
UFSA, UIFSA. Those come from chapters 160 and 159, and because the court has jurisdiction over both of those, we're asking that the plea be denied. We will stipulate on a narrow point so we can focus on what actually matters. We're not asking the court today to make an initial child custody determination under the UCCJEA or to set conservatorship or possession schedule. We stipulate that the child was born in Singapore on December 29th of last year, and he has lived there since then. So right now, we stipulate that Singapore is the home state for custody purposes. But that concession does not dismiss the case. And the Supreme Court authority cited in the plea confirms that. It's In re Dean. It's a Supreme Court case from, I believe, 2013. And even in that case, there was a divorce. It wasn't a adjudication of parentage, but the divorce was not dismissed. Only the child custody piece was dismissed. And so in this case, similarly, there is the adjudication and the support, which should not be dismissed.
In Dean, give me the citation for that.
It's 393 Southwest 3rd, 741. And I can upload that to the box if the court would like me to.
Okay. And so what are you asking the court to do?
We're asking the court to do what the Family Code in Chapter 152 allows, is to abate the custody piece of it, contingent on the respondent promptly commencing a suit in the home state. And if the respondent chooses not to, after the abatement ends, whatever, we're asking for 3 months, but whatever the court decides, at that point, we could proceed here. I believe that's statutorily authorized under 152. And the child's 7 months old. This case was filed before the child was even born. It was filed in October of last year. The child wasn't born until December. The respondent answered in November. We had a hearing in December, even before the child was born. There's been plenty of time. She could have started a proceeding at any point in the last 7 months after the child was born in Singapore, and she hasn't. And so we don't want to be left in a situation where there's just never a determination made. She was here in Texas. She was personally served here in Texas. She was living and working here in Texas. There's no question there's personal jurisdiction. The question is subject matter jurisdiction. And we don't want to be manufacturing a situation where my client, having done everything right, having started the proceeding while his child's mother was here personally in Texas, is now left without a way to have a conservatorship or custody order entered, either in Singapore or in Texas. Ms. Prince is in Singapore. If she would like to start the proceeding, she can. If she doesn't want to start the proceeding, we think it should be concluded here in Texas, where she was when she was served when this case started. But we want to give her some time to make that decision. So that's what we're requesting on that. So
your sole request really is your sole request is to abate with a specific order that Ms. Prince initiate the proceedings in Singapore within a time frame. That's it.
Yes. So not to dismiss the entire case, but to abate for a time period. And if she does do that at that point in time, those portions of it can obviously be dismissed at that point in time. Not the entire case, just the UCCJEA portions.
So when you said you were asking for mediation and temporary orders, how does that come in?
So Chapter 160 allows for temporary orders. So we're asking for two specific temporary orders. One is that we have a temporary order for child support, which we're here to put on evidence about my client's net resources and what the guidelines should say. The second is that we're asking that the court order genetic testing. I think both parents would like some assurances, that this question is closed for forever, whether or not Mr. Cathis is the father. So we would like that to be ordered. Both of those are specifically allowed under Chapter 160 and Chapter 159.
But if Ms. Prince filed in Singapore, that would be part of the process in Singapore too, right? Doing genetic testing for a paternity case.
And Your Honor, I'm not claiming at all to be a.
And the child is a baby and is 7 months old and
Correct.
doesn't reside here. So it would be much easier for Mr. Cathis to travel to where the child is to do a genetic testing in the country where the child lives and where the child was born.
Well, I think you will hear evidence about that he is a graduate student here in Austin. He has much fewer resources than Ms. Prince does. That there is evidence that Ms. Prince always indicated to her partner that she was going to give birth in Singapore and then go through maternity leave in Singapore, but then return to Texas when that maternity leave was over in order to raise the child here in Texas. So there are questions.
So for that reason, you think the baby should be put on a plane and come from Singapore to Texas and be tested here?
Your Honor, that's not what we're requesting. We're requesting that the court order that there be appropriate chain of custody so that there's no question that that is done. That could be done in Singapore, it could be done in Texas, it could be done with the baby in Singapore and Mr. Cathis in Texas. But what we are just requesting is that there are proper orders in place about that. So we're not requesting the child be forced to come to Texas to do that. No, Your Honor.
What's preventing Mr. Cathis from filing this same case in Singapore?
Resources, Your Honor, and the court will hear evidence about that Miss Prince has resources to do that. Mr. Cathis does not. He is a graduate student. He is here in Texas. He does not have a visa to go to Singapore at the moment. He does not have the resources to end his graduate studies and relocate there. It is something that he is here, the child was conceived here. The plan was to raise the child here. And only when the relationship ended did that apparently change. And so that is something that he is asking the court to order here because the court has personal jurisdiction over both he and Miss Prince. Singapore does not have personal jurisdiction over him. And so even if Miss Prince starts a case in Singapore, the only thing that court can determine is conservatorship and possession. It cannot determine support. Support under UFSA goes on personal jurisdiction of the obligor.
Unless he consents to jurisdiction.
Correct, Your Honor. Unless he consents to jurisdiction.
Right. Okay. Mr. Castillo, you're opening.
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court. And Your Honor, I'd like to first address that opposing counsel was referencing Texas Family Code section 152.207, where he stated that this court would ultimately have the ability and or should stay the proceedings regarding the child custody determination and require that a custody proceeding be promptly commenced in another designated state. Your Honor, that's the inconvenient forum of section of the Texas Family Code under 152. And what it specifically states is that a court of this state which has jurisdiction under this chapter to make a child custody determination may decline its jurisdiction under the inconvenient forum. So this court has to first have the ability or subject matter jurisdiction to make a child custody determination to decide that another state is more appropriate and therefore order an initial lawsuit to be commenced over there. And our position and kind of, the idea of like, why are we here today on their issue of asking this court to abate that site that they cited to the court that court dismissed that part of the lawsuit, and yes, did proceed forward on the adjudication. And again, our position or issue with petitioner's position is that they're still asking this court to abate those proceedings. And what we're asking for is the court to dismiss those specific proceedings. Maybe more in short, Your Honor, we'd say that to our position in the plea is that the court essentially must dismiss the child custody determination, and the court may continue to exercise its jurisdiction regarding the parentage. And what the court is going to hear regarding that evidence, Your Honor, is that just yesterday, and we're hearing about this genetic testing, and for the past 6 months on I think the evidence will show a monthly basis, Mr. Cathis has been sending monthly cards. You know, when the child was first born around December 2025 timeframe, my client reached out, provided paperwork regarding, you know, the birth certificate and how he could get on there. He essentially ignored that, and when he did reach back out, you know, the conversation was more like, if you want me to be on that birth certificate, you know, here's what needs to happen. And it's, you know, the time frame that she had given him about that process had already passed. And so this isn't a situation where we're asking the court or in any way suggesting that the court doesn't have the authority to move forward on the parentage. Our position more so is that, you know, Miss Prince shouldn't be required to essentially do his job for him. He's asking
what do you mean by moving forward on the parentage? Elaborate.
Well, their request still now today is they want Your Honor to abate the conservatorship aspect of the case today. They're asking for genetic testing, but they're also asking the court to order child support. And our position coming here today, when we found out that Mr. Cathis is wanting genetic testing, our position was, well, okay, why don't we then just do genetic testing and not address anything else? Because, you know, why would we put anything in place? And so it's been more this confusing message because maybe factually and outside of court, he's been reaching out like this, you know, he thinks this is his kid. And now he's asking the court for genetic testing. And so our position was more, I believe the court must dismiss the child custody determination aspect of the lawsuit. If he's now questioning whether or not he's the father, then yes, I do agree that genetic testing needs to happen. But similarly, I, you know, shared the court's concern about, wouldn't it just be better or easier for everybody to get it all done in Singapore? Because, you know, this isn't your typical state to state sort of determination about things like child support and long distance travel, which, you know, long distance travel is a child custody issue, and child support is a parentage and child custody issue that the court can determine. And again, Your Honor, I guess our position would just be more like, there's been no disputes. He's been voluntarily paying. And so why we would keep a sort of fragmented situation where she's having to start it over there while still dealing with this case here. She has spent a lot of money, Your Honor, on this case so far. So, you know, that's the kind of position as to why we're saying dismiss it entirely, because there's been no dispute that it wouldn't proceed accordingly in Singapore. It just hasn't, because she's focusing her resources on dealing with this case.
Okay, so just a few questions. Mr. Castillo, Miss Prince is was born in Singapore, is a national of Singapore?
Yes, Your Honor, she's a citizen of Singapore. She had moved to Texas on a work visa following a relocation from a Singapore office in early of 2023. And her L1 work visa expired in April of 2026. But she actually is in Texas right now because she did have to come to the Austin office to essentially close out that work process.
Okay, so her L1 expired when?
April of 2026 was when it was set to expire. And I think that, you know, she came down here for the purposes of closing that out, but But yes, she will be returning back to Singapore where she was the 10 years prior. That's where her mother lives, all her relatives essentially, except the sister who lives in France.
Okay, and so Ms. Prince is not a permanent resident of the United States or a U.S. citizen?
That is correct, Your Honor. She's not.
But does Ms. Prince have a visitor's visa to enter the United States freely?
I'm not certain yet, Your Honor. I know that was part of what she was discussing with her employer, because it was the Singapore office does have locations here. But my understanding is that that's completely expired. That no, she will not have anything like that. I mean, she's going back to work permanently in Singapore now that the baby's been there, and that's where she'll be staying.
Okay, Mr. Pittman, Mr. Cathis was born and is a national of the United States.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay, so U.S. citizen. Does Mr. Cathis hold any other nationality? Does he have dual nationality?
My understanding is no, Your Honor.
Is that correct, Mr. Cathis?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And is a visa required to enter for Americans to enter Singapore? I don't think so, but have you all looked into that? If he needed to visit Singapore, I don't believe he needs a special visa as an American, correct?
Your Honor, I don't want to answer a question I don't know the answer to. If Mr. Cathis is looking to, I'm happy to ask him during direct, or we can ask him right now, but I don't know the answer to that question.
Mr. Cathis, do you need a visa to enter Singapore?
Just from like quick lookups, I think for like short-term visits, I don't need a visa.
When was the last time you went to Singapore?
I have never been to Singapore.
Okay, you've never been there. Okay. All right.
Something else I'll say, Your Honor, I think is important, and an understanding of the party situation as well, is that despite having been in Austin starting around 2023, the parties didn't meet until February of 2025, and it was, I think, by the end of June of 2025 that Miss Prince learned that she was pregnant. And I think it was by September 2025 that the parties had ultimately already discussed, planned, and attended a virtual tour of the Singapore hospital where the baby was to be delivered. And similarly, that same month, Miss Prince had already purchased her plane ticket to go back to Singapore to kind of follow through with that plan. And that is exactly what happened. And ultimately, she did stay there.
And so how many months pregnant was she when she left?
I believe she left and she was, so let me go back to my timeline. I know she was served in October.
Just hold on. Miss Prince, were you in your last trimester when you left?
Yes, Your Honor. I was in my last trimester. I was about 7 months pregnant when I left.
Okay, and so you left at that interval so that in case you gave birth prematurely, you were already near the hospital that you intended, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
All right. Okay. All right. I want to briefly spend some time going over this case law, Mr. Pittman, that you brought up. It was 393 Southwest 3rd, 741 in Ray Dean.
That's correct, Your Honor.
So in that case, the Texas trial court lacked jurisdiction over custody of that child because New Mexico was his home state under 152-1027. So in that case, the child was born there, lived there continuously from birth, and New Mexico did not properly decline jurisdiction under sections 152-207 or 152-208. But the case law states that instead they improperly deferred to Texas solely because Richard filed his divorce petition first. In that case, it was a divorce. In
Right.
this case, it's not a divorce. It's solely a SAPSR, right?
I want to be clear, it's a petition to adjudicate parentage under Chapter 160, not a SAPSR under Chapter 153.
Okay, got it. So how do you think that case law is applicable to this case?
Because that case law says that the proceeding that was instituted in Texas was not dismissed. Only the custody portion was dismissed. And
You mean that, you mean the divorce?
yes, the divorce proceeded, but the custody portion was severed and did not. And I think it's especially
Yes, and that's actually, that's not news. We know that that could proceed that way, and it has been done in many cases that we've had in Travis County.
yes.
But that's not the case here. This is not a divorce.
This is not, Your Honor, but this is a adjudication of parentage underneath the Uniform Parentage Act under Chapter 160. And there are specific procedural and jurisdictional requirements under Chapter 160 that have all been met here. And a proceeding is authorized before birth under Chapter 160, so that was instigated properly. The service of process was effectuated. There's no question that there's personal jurisdiction and subject matter jurisdiction to adjudicate parentage under Chapter 160. Same thing for UIFSA under Chapter 159. There's no question that there's personal and subject matter jurisdiction over Ms. Prince and subject matter jurisdiction over the case for support under UIFSA. The only thing that UCCJEA determines is a initial child custody proceeding and home state, and that is limited to the issues of conservatorship and possession and access. It does not reach the adjudication question under Chapter 160. It does not reach the support questions under 159. And so the way that in Dean case supports our position is that in that case, it was a divorce case. In this case, it's an adjudication case, but the entire case was not dismissed. Only the portions that UCCJEA touched were dismissed. And so we're asking that the court to only do that, follow the Dean roadmap. What I would say is that what I think is also helpful is Justice Lerman's concurring opinion in the Dean case. And she wrote, as she says, she wrote separately that emphasized that the New Mexico court may still decline jurisdiction. And so there's nothing keeping Singapore from declining jurisdiction and saying that actually Texas is a more inconvenient forum. Hasn't happened. Nobody has brought a case in Singapore yet. That's the reason we're asking the court just to abate the case to see what Singapore does. Because Miss Prince was personally served. There's subject matter jurisdiction. All of those things are true. Whether it was agreed, I will say this, I will stipulate, it was agreed that she would leave. There was no question, my client will testify about that. His belief, and I believe the facts will show, the agreement was not only that she would leave to give birth in Singapore for all the reasons that he agreed with, it's that she would return to Texas after her maternity leave was over, and they would raise the child here together as a family in Texas. Because my client is not a resident of Singapore, he's not married. He could get a 90-day visa, according to one of my quick searches when the court asked, but in order to have a longer residence or a more frequent duration of visits, he would have to have, I guess he can go 90 days without a visa is what I'm trying to say, but he does not have a visa to stay longer than 90 days or to do things like a normal parent in Singapore would be able to do. So we are asking for those reasons. That's why we're asking the court to not dismiss the entire case, because UCCJEA is not the UPA, it is not UIFSA. Both of those proceedings should, both of those aspects of this case, the parentage adjudication and the support aspects of this case, should proceed here in Texas, where there is no question that there's both personal and subject matter jurisdiction. And if and when Mrs. Prince files a suit in Singapore, Mr. Cathis will have the option to either consent and do that there, or to argue that that isn't an inconvenient forum and see what Singapore says about that and see if they decline based off his arguments. That bridge will have to be crossed when it's appropriate. We're not there yet, but where we are is we're here in Texas on a properly filed under the UPA, a properly served under the UPA, subject matter and personal jurisdiction under 160 and 159 are those boxes are checked. And there's personal jurisdiction under 152 as well. It's just the subject matter jurisdiction because the child was born in Singapore. So we are stipulating, we're conceding for those portions of it. This court currently lacks jurisdiction unless and until Singapore makes a finding of inconvenient forum, which is why we want Ms. Prince to start a proceeding there. I think it'd be really hard for my client to argue inconvenient forum if he's the one who's the petitioner in Singapore. And so it would be asking him to cut off his legs for a legal argument to be the one to start that proceeding.
Okay, call your first witness.
Your Honor, I would call, well, I'm assuming you're asking me to call my first witness, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I want to make sure the proper order. I would call my client, Alexander Cathis.
Okay, go ahead. You may proceed. Unmute yourself, Mr. Cathis.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Cathis, can you please state your name for the record?
Yes, it's Alexander Cathis.
And where do you reside?
I live in Austin, Texas.
And what do you currently do here in Austin?
I'm a graduate student in the electrical and computer engineering department at the University of Texas in Austin.
Okay. And we talked about this earlier, but now that you're testifying, are you a resident? Are you a citizen of the United States and a resident of Travis County?
Yes, I am to both of those.
Have you ever lived in Singapore?
No, I have not.
What is your relationship to the respondent, Miss Rudima Prince?
Miss Prince and I had a romantic relationship, and now I believe we have a child together.
And you said you have a child together. What is that child's name, and when was that child born?
The child's name is Oliver Prince, and he was born December 29th of 2025.
And to your knowledge, where is Oliver located right now?
I believe he's located in Singapore.
And you heard Mr. Castillo state during opening that Miss Prince, however, is physically in Texas today for this hearing, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And I want to establish a few things about Mrs. Prince's connection to Texas. It's your understanding she is a citizen of Singapore, correct?
Yes.
When did Miss Prince tell you that she first moved to the United States or to Texas specifically?
Yeah, I believe that was early of 2023.
And as far as you know, did she live and work here in the Austin area the entire time that you knew her up until she left in December of last year?
Yes, that's correct.
And was Miss Prince personally served here in Texas with both the citation and the petition and the adjudication lawsuit?
Yes.
And Your Honor, at this time, I'd ask the court to take judicial notice of the case file, including the affidavit of service that's on file.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
Okay, the judge is going to take judicial notice of the file as requested.
Thank you, Judge. And Mr. Cathis, you're the petitioner in the suit to adjudicate parentage of Oliver, correct?
Yes.
Why did you file this case when you did back in October of last year?
I received counsel that filing while Miss Prince was still in Texas was time sensitive and most effective for me to be able to see my son and have rights and be able to later extend like legal benefits towards him.
And have you, and well, let me say this, at that point, obviously Oliver had not yet been born, correct?
Correct.
And have you prepared what's called a proposed disposition of issues for today's hearing?
Yes, I have.
Oh, let me share my screen with you. On your screen is what's been pre-marked as petition exhibit 1. And actually, Your Honor, we forgot to do this. I believe Mr. Castillo and I have agreed to pre-admit all of petitioners and respondents exhibits. I don't know if you want to do them exhibit by exhibit or if we should do that before we start introducing.
Just offer it. I'll say any objection, and when he says no objection, I'll get it in that way.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. I'll share my screen again.
But you can share your screen, of course.
Thank you.
And if the matters are helpful, Your Honor, yes, we did agree and stipulate to all of our exhibits being admitted, both sides.
Okay. All right. Well, it won't take me long. He offers it up front. The good thing is he doesn't have to go through all of the process of presenting the exhibit, and he can just say, I'm offering P1. I'll ask a quick question and then we'll get it in.
And Your Honor, this time I would offer petitioner's exhibit 1.
Any objection?
None, Your Honor.
P01 is admitted.
So, Mr. Cathis, this proposed disposition of issues is a summary of the relief you're requesting from the court today, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you. And to be clear, as we stated in our discussion with the court, you are not asking the court to set a possession schedule or to name you a conservator today, correct?
That's correct.
And the two things you're asking on temporary orders are for genetic testing and for the court to order temporary child support, correct?
Yes.
You mentioned that you're a graduate student. Are you also employed by the University of Texas?
Yes, I am.
And what do you do there as an employee of the University of Texas?
My job title is graduate research assistant. So effectively, I'm a PhD candidate and I conduct and publish academic research.
Okay. And approximately how much do you make on either a monthly or an annual basis?
Annually, I make roughly $36,000 a year.
And I'm sharing my screen one more time. Did you prepare a proposed support decision for today's hearing?
Yes, I did.
Your Honor, at this time I'd offer petitioner's exhibit 2.
Any objection?
None, Your Honor.
P02 is admitted.
And Mr. Cathis, is exhibit 2 your proposed support decision and information?
Yes, it is.
And does this show your gross money earned, actual deductions, statutory deductions, and then your living expenses?
Yes, it does.
And are you requesting that the court order child support in accordance with the statutory guidelines, which you believe to be $472.15 per month based off?
Yes. Yes, I am.
And to your knowledge, is Miss Prince employed?
Yes, she is.
And do you know what she does for employment?
She works with supply and logistics at Dell Technologies.
And is it your understanding that even though she's in Singapore, she is still employed by Dell Technologies?
Yes, it is.
Did you and Miss Prince ever discuss her income and how much money she earned on a monthly or annual basis?
No, not explicitly.
Okay. How did you and Miss Prince meet?
We met at a concert.
And do you remember approximately when that was?
It was February 14th of 2025.
Okay. So you met on Valentine's Day of 2025. Do you remember when your romantic relationship began?
I would say early of March of 2025, so maybe like a month later or a few weeks later.
And during that relationship, where were you and Miss Prince both living, in what city and state?
We were both living in our respective apartments in Austin, Texas.
And did you and Miss Prince have an intimate relationship that resulted in pregnancy?
Yes, I believe so.
Where were you living when your son Oliver was conceived?
I was living here in Austin, Texas.
And when did you find out that Miss Prince was pregnant?
She told me via text message on June 20th of 2025.
And that's always important news, and it can be life-changing. Did that affect your relationship in any way with Miss Prince?
By the time that she told me, I think we both acknowledged that we were not a couple. But after this news, we talked about what we could do together.
Okay.
And how things will change. Yes.
So what happened after Miss Prince told you that she was pregnant?
She told me that I do not have to do anything. She does not expect anything from me and that she will figure it out herself. I told her that I can't run away from that responsibility and that we both need to figure things out together.
Okay. And ultimately, did you agree to keep the pregnancy, become parents of a child together?
Yes, we did. We agreed to be like romantically together and keep the pregnancy.
Did you feel pressure from Miss Prince to take any steps to formalize your relationship after she became pregnant?
Yes, she insisted that I marry her, and that before the birth of the child, and that the marriage must be under Muslim law, which would require me to convert.
Were you comfortable converting to a different religion in order to marry Miss Prince?
No,
I'm
I
gonna
wasn't.
object to relevance, Your Honor.
Overruled. You can answer the question. You were not comfortable, okay?
And Mr. Cathis, since we're here in court today, did your relationship with Miss Prince ultimately end?
Yes, it did.
And can you tell the court approximately when your relationship ended?
I think on September 29th, I told her that, or like I moved out of her apartment. Like after the June 20th, we like tried to move in together and work things out. September 29th, I moved out, and October 2nd, she stated to her boss via email CCing me that the father has chosen to not be in the child's life. So I would consider that mutual acknowledgement that the relationship is over.
And even though Miss Prince said in an email to her boss that you had chosen not to be in a child's life, was that accurate?
I would say no. I think those were her words.
Okay. Now, we've talked with the court before evidence started that obviously your son Oliver was born in Singapore. So I'm going to ask you some questions about how that came to be. Before your relationship ended, did you agree to Miss Prince traveling to Singapore to deliver your son?
Yes, I did.
And can you tell the court kind of how that came to be and why you agreed to that?
Yes, she stated that she would feel safer giving birth under the Singaporean medical system and would also prefer like the greater family and friendship support, like being in her home country that she does not have in the US. So yeah, I was amenable to her and the baby's comfort and safety.
And what, if anything, did Miss Prince tell you about how long she planned to stay in Singapore after your son was born?
She told me that she'd spend most of her maternity leave in Singapore, so fly to Singapore December, come back to the US roughly April of 2026 to, yeah, be a parent here.
Okay. And did you rely on that representation from Miss Prince when you agreed for her to deliver your son in a country where you're not a citizen?
Yes, I did.
And at the time you agreed, had she ever told you that she intended to stay in Singapore permanently and raise your son there?
No.
If she had told you that, would that have impacted, your willingness to agree to that arrangement?
I mean, I don't think I can control where she lives, but I think in terms of like my personal desires or agreement, I would not have been happy with that.
Since your relationship with Miss Prince ended, how would you describe Mrs. Prince's communications with you?
I would describe them as hostile and not conducive to co-parenting.
I'm going to share my screen one more time. I'm going to show you what's been pre-marked as Petitioner Exhibit 3.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
P3 is admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. And Mr. Prince, now these have been admitted, can you just tell the court, these are, I believe, WhatsApp messages, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And looking at the first message here, what was your understanding of what Miss Prince meant when she wrote that quote, "If this baby is healthy and there are no problems, I will keep it, and if it's not, I will not," close quote?
From my understanding, it means that she wants to go through like the standard prenatal like baby health tests, and if there are complications or dangerous risks, then she's planning to terminate the baby.
Okay. And looking at the second message, what did she say her position was? And I believe this is in July of last year, so prior to your relationship ending, about co-parenting with you.
Yeah, she says that she refuses to co-parent with me and will not allow me into the picture of the child's life or be involved.
I'm going to now show you what's been marked as Petitioners Exhibit 4, and I'd offer Petitioners 4 at this time.
No objections.
P04 is admitted.
And so, thank you, Your Honor. Exhibit 4 are also WhatsApp text messages. These are from October of last year, correct?
Yes,
And these were after your relationship had ended, correct?
correct.
Without reading each message, because they kind of speak for themselves, can you paraphrase for the court what was being discussed in these messages?
She was expressing displeasure about going to couples therapy, which I wanted to go to work on our civil or like functional relationship, just because we are both literal parents of Oliver. She suspects that I'm trying to coerce her into co-parenting, which is something she says that she does not want. I retort and say that I still want to be like a supportive father and involved, and she says that I am not fit to do that and that I cannot be his father.
And on the second page, what did Miss Prince's last two messages about I can tell him what happened? What did that mean to you, particularly in the light of her earlier statement that she would have terminated her pregnancy if the child had not been healthy?
Yeah, I mean, termination is something that we have both like previously discussed, and my interpretation of those messages is that she intends to tell Oliver that I wanted him terminated.
Okay. And then let me show you what's been, and let me offer before I ask you questions about it, Petitioner Exhibit 5.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
P5 is admitted.
And so, Mr. Cathis, Petitioner Exhibit 5, these are emails between you and Miss Prince from the most recent one was December 2nd of last year, and the earliest message is November 15th of last year, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And let's go to November 15th, or that's where we are. What did she first email you about on November 15th? And I can increase the Zoom if you need me.
She's saying that she's made deposits or made like payment plans or has plans to purchase like a postpartum nanny and a full-time childcare nanny, and she's asking me to pay or provide some sort of payment plan or contribution plan.
Okay. And to be clear, this was after she'd been served with this lawsuit and while she was still here in Texas, correct?
Correct.
I'm gonna go up to this email that she wrote on November 20th of last year. Ms. Prince wrote, given your current academic demands, limited availability, and limited resources, your direct caregiving responsibility in the United States is not practical nor realistic at this stage, close quote, correct?
Yes, she wrote that.
Okay. And what did you take that to mean, that statement in that email?
I'm not exactly sure what she's saying that I've always been agreeable to. Like, I don't think I ever agreed to not take care of Oliver or to have him live or be raised in Singapore.
And did the term, at this stage imply that at a later stage, he would not have to be in Singapore?
Correct. Yeah, I think like at this stage just highlights like the temporal like nature of the current situation that I'm hoping to change such that I can provide better support and care and presence.
And then you responded a day or two later and said that you contributed as requested, you paid invoices and expenses that were sent, attending appointments when invited, and you've been exploring childcare options in the US, correct?
Yes.
And so if you believe that he would never be returning to the US, would you have been exploring childcare options in the United States?
No, I would not have.
So at the time of these messages, which was after the lawsuit was filed and after Ms. Prince had been served, you were still discussing your belief that your son would return to the US after your birth, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And then Ms. Prince filed an answer and a supporting declaration in late November, correct?
Yes.
And Your Honor, at this time I offer Petitioner's Exhibit 6.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
P6 is admitted.
So Petitioner's Exhibit 6 is Ms. Prince's supporting declaration to her plea of jurisdiction that we're here about today. She says that in this declaration that she intends in the second last paragraph that she'll be raising her child in Singapore. She signed this November 24th, 2025. Is that the first time you ever received any sort of written statement from Ms. Prince saying that she did not intend to return to the United States after her maternity leave?
Oh, that's correct.
Right. And since Oliver was born on December 29th of last year, how has Ms. Prince handled communication with you and your son?
I would say that her communication has remained hostile as shown in the previous exhibits. She might occasionally give acknowledgement of like receipt of gifts or letters I've sent, but only after I specifically ask, and it's not rare for those asks to be ignored. I feel that child-related discussion is quickly interrupted by personal attacks and grievances about the past. So I find this very like unproductive for co-parenting. But she does send medical updates and pictures and videos, which is greatly appreciated.
You're also asking the court to order genetic testing to confirm you're Oliver's father. Why is that important to you?
Just because I want all parties just to be certain that he is my son, and for me to be able to give like proper like informal and formal like support in that matter.
And why does it matter to you that the testing be done through an accredited lab with the proper chain of custody, not just, you know, an at-home kit or something like that?
Just because I want all parties involved just to be certain of the results.
And you're not requesting that Oliver be brought to Texas for that testing, are you?
That's correct. I think I'm ultimately like the child's comfort and the mother's comfort are more important than my desires. So I'm willing to like work together, and I'm willing to go to Singapore to perform that chain of custody testing.
Okay. And you're also asking the court to order temporary child support, correct? Even while that testing is pending.
Yes, that's correct.
Have you and Miss Prince communicated about requests for money for certain expenses for Oliver?
Yes, she regularly sends requests for money and expenses for Oliver, and I've also just been like consistently upfront saying that my budget is $500 a month, and I'm doing what I can, and I'm hoping to improve my financial situation and provide more in the future.
And have you been voluntarily sending that amount each month since Oliver was born?
Yes, I would say I've been sending like more, but we can round down.
And in addition to just financial support, has Miss Prince asked you to pay for any other what she thinks are needs for the child that are requests of you?
I mean, I would consider like financial support and like buying like items for the child like similar or like in the same grouping, but yeah, she's asked me to pay for like the live-in nanny, like maybe like the more premium versions of like a stroller or like a rocker or high chair. She's asked me to pay for like medical expenses, her legal fees, Oliver's rent. So yes, there are things, yes.
How much has she asked you to pay for, let's talk about the live-in nanny on a monthly basis?
I mean, the live-in nanny itself is maybe like roughly $550 USD a month.
Okay. And then, you know, and that's in addition to the support you're already paying, correct?
I mean, a lot of times that like goes to the support, but I mean, I am like the dollar amount coming out of like my like resources is monthly is $500 a month or more.
But you're asking the court today to enter a temporary guideline order based on your actual income, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And I want to ask, are you aware of any custody proceeding, parentage proceeding, child support proceeding, or any other case concerning Oliver pending in Singapore or anywhere other than this court?
No, this is the only case that I'm aware of.
And as you heard me say during opening and as contained in your proposed disposition of issues, is if a custody proceeding or something like that is not commenced in the next 3 months, what do you want this court to do as it relates to conservatorship and custody orders at that time?
I would like if like orders aren't proceeded in another jurisdiction, I would like for the Texas court to proceed such that there's at least some settlement or resolution regarding these matters.
Okay. And you're also asking the court to order mediation here in Texas in this case, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And do you believe that despite the fact that you're here today, court that there's a reasonable possibility of settling all of the issues in this case in mediation?
Yes, I think I've been consistent in my messaging that I would prefer mediation, or that I'm pretty agreeable to resolving this. So,
okay. And so kind of in closing, are the requests you're making today intended to harm Ms. Prince in any way?
No, they're intended to just formalize like the rights, responsibilities, and expectations for both parents of Oliver.
And in your view, are these requests reasonable and necessary and in your son's best interest?
Yes, they are.
I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Castillo, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Cathis, I understand, or do I understand correctly that you are opposing Ms. Prince's request that the issues like possession and access and rights and duties be dismissed? Is that correct?
You're asking if I contest that the issues be dismissed?
Yes.
Yes, I contest that. I think at some point those issues need to be resolved somewhere. I think Mr. Pittman has made it clear and made like a reasonable or like good faith effort and like acknowledging that we can acknowledge those issues in Singapore. And if that can't be done, then it makes sense to resolve them in Texas. But I would like those issues resolved formally.
During the pregnancy, you and Ms. Prince discussed where the baby would be born, right?
Yes.
She told you that she was considering giving birth in Singapore, right?
Yes.
She explained her reasons for preferring Singapore.
Yes.
Those reasons included the support available from her family and friends that were in Singapore, right?
Yes.
They also included her familiarity with the healthcare system in Singapore.
Yes.
She gave you a detailed comparison of delivering in Singapore and delivering in the United States, right?
Yes.
You were asked whether, you asked whether she still preferred Singapore when y'all were having those discussions, right?
Yes.
She told you that she did, right?
Yes.
You didn't tell her that Singapore was unacceptable, did you?
I did not.
You didn't tell her that she had to deliver in Texas, did you?
I did not tell her that.
Instead, you wrote her that either location was plausible and reasonable, right?
Yes.
You also wrote that you mostly agreed with her assessment of the advantages and disadvantages, right?
Yes.
And you told her that her safety and the comfort were the most important considerations.
Yes.
You also wrote that you hadn't even seriously considered delivery in the United States, right?
Yes.
You said Singapore might be logistically easier for both of y'all, right?
Yes.
At the time of those communications, you weren't objecting to the baby being born in Singapore, right?
That's correct.
And what you knew about the details was that she was arranging to deliver at Mount Elizabeth Novena Hospital, right?
Yes.
You and Miss Prince actually did a virtual tour of that facility, right?
Yes.
She sent you the information concerning the hospital's pre-registration process.
Yes.
She told you about the hospital's policy and procedures with Zoom and the remote.
Yes. Yes.
Right. You discussed scheduling the orientation around your availability, right?
Yes.
You also knew the anticipated timing of the delivery, right?
Yes.
Miss Prince wasn't concealing the hospital or delivery arrangements from you at all, was she?
That's correct.
You were included in the planning, right?
Yes.
You also even discussed the possibility of you spending time in Singapore, right?
Yes, but I think it was quite explicit or understood that that was a short temporary time.
Right. I think specifically what you told Ms. Prince was that your German seminar advisor was expected to be on a sabbatical in Singapore, right?
No, I don't think that's correct.
You don't recall when you said that that might make it easier for you to work in Singapore?
I mean, with your specific phrasing of German advisor having a sabbatical in Singapore, I don't think that's correct. He is on sabbatical, not in Singapore.
Was there ever a discussion about anything that might make it easier for you to travel to Singapore for that time frame?
Yes, I think most of your terminology was correct. There was just like a minor detail, but that's fine. But yeah, my advisor was on sabbatical at that time, and that would have made it easier for me to do my work remotely in Singapore as well.
So in and around that time, you weren't treating Singapore as a place where you couldn't go to, right?
That is correct. I could hypothetically go there.
Now, you filed this case before Oliver was born, right?
Yes.
And that, of course, you filed already knowing the plan to give birth in Singapore.
Yes.
And, as we sit here today, you can't identify any message in which she promised that Oliver would live in Texas, right?
Correct. I mean,
The
like,
written-
even,
the-
like permanently.
The written
I'm
discussions
sorry, I
instead.
didn't hear what you said. I didn't hear what you said. You said correct, and then you said something after that.
I think that, like, Mr. Pittman has showed exhibits showing that there was plan or discussion that after Oliver was born and maternity leave was spent in Singapore, that he would come back to the US.
Right, and each of those exhibits and all that communication contained in those exhibits all occurred while Miss Prince was pregnant, right?
Yes.
And so those written discussions instead included the possibility of you spending time in Singapore, right?
Yes, that is included in the discussion, yes.
You've never exercised physical possession of Oliver in Texas, right?
Correct.
In fact, you've never met Oliver in person, have you?
Correct.
After Oliver was born, Miss
Yeah.
Prince asked whether you plan to come see him or not, right?
Yes.
You responded that you'd like to visit if she was comfortable with it, right?
Yes.
She told you she was open to the visit, didn't she?
Yes.
She asked what timing were you considering so that she could plan, right?
Yes.
She offered to adjust your schedule, didn't she?
What do you mean by adjusting my schedule? Adjusting
Basically,
her schedule, or?
no, she was asking you, hey, I'll adjust my schedule on, the suggested time frame that you might be able to come.
Okay.
Is that true? Yes or no?
I mean, that sounds reasonable, but I don't have like explicit evidence or explicit memory of that. But I think that's reasonable. Like,
Do you recall that she told you she preferred that you have a steady and regular presence in Oliver's life?
she has made that statement, but she has also made contradictory statements in the past.
She said she didn't want the visit to be a one-time only interaction, right?
That's true.
And you suggested you might visit over the summer, this summer, correct?
Yes.
I think it was June that you mentioned as a possibility, right?
Yes.
And Miss Prince explained that March through May would work best because she'd be returning for work back to the Austin timeframe, Austin area to deal with her visa issue, right?
Yes.
At that time, she wasn't demanding exact travel dates from you, was she?
No, she was not.
She only asked for a general time period, right?
Yes.
You told her that you do your best and keep her updated, right?
Yes.
She responded, sounds like a plan.
Yes.
Nothing in that exchange says you weren't allowed to visit Oliver, does it?
That is true.
Now, you told Miss Prince that you first needed to find a job, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you said the timing depends on your school progress.
Yes.
You basically said it just depends on how your job search went, right?
Yes.
Those were the circumstances on your side as it relates to, you agreeing to go visit Oliver in Singapore, right?
Yes.
Miss Prince didn't tell you that you needed a Texas custody order before visiting, did she?
She did not.
She didn't require genetic testing before you could visit, did she?
That is true.
She didn't tell you that this lawsuit had to be resolved first, did she?
Correct.
You never provided her with confirmed travel dates, did you?
I have not.
You never purchased a ticket for the visit?
Correct.
She never rejected a confirmed date proposed by you.
That is true.
Now, when Miss Prince notified you when Oliver was born, she did so with pictures and videos, right?
Yes.
She didn't conceal his birth from you, right?
Correct. Yes.
In fact, very shortly after the birth, she asked whether you wanted to be included on Oliver's birth certificate, right?
Yes.
She told you that she needed your passport.
Yes.
She also asked for your United States address, right?
Yes.
She sent you screenshots showing the information required by the Singapore registration system, right?
Yes.
One of those screenshots had already even listed your name, right?
Yes.
You didn't provide the requested information before the original birth certificate was issued, did you?
I did not.
After the certificate was issued, you told her that you had your passport and other identifying information. You recall that?
Yes.
And specifically, I think you said that if you, meaning Miss Prince, if she wants you on the birth certificate, here's my information. That's how that communication went, right?
Yes.
She responded that that you could research how you could have added your name by amendment, right?
Yes.
She didn't tell you that she would refuse to have you added, did she?
That's correct.
And you responded, alrighty, thanks, right?
Yes.
So your name wasn't omitted because Miss Prince was claiming that somebody else was Oliver's father, right?
That's correct.
She identified you as the father during pregnancy, right?
Yes.
She attempted to place you on the birth certificate after the birth, right?
Yes.
She invited you to visit Oliver as his
Yes.
father, right?
Yes.
You've also treated Oliver as your son, correct?
Yes.
You've sent cards to him.
Yes.
You've sent money for his support.
Yes.
You haven't identified another possible father, have you?
I have not.
Miss Prince hasn't identified another possible father, has she?
As far as I know, no.
No other man has appeared in this case claiming to be Oliver's father, right?
Correct.
Under examination with your attorney, I think I heard you say that you're asking for this genetic testing so that everybody can be sure. Is that what you had said?
Yes, including myself.
Right. So it's your position here that it's Miss Prince that's not sure and you're not sure. Is that what you're saying?
I'm mostly asking for like my own certainty.
Okay. So you're the one requesting the genetic test, right?
Yes.
I think I heard you say that you've also been sending Miss Prince approximately about $500 per month.
Yes.
You didn't describe those payments as loans, did you?
No, that's specifically for Oliver.
You didn't condition the payments on the results of genetic testing, did you?
No, they are not conditional.
So outside the courtroom, you've been consistently acting like you're Oliver's father in your own way, right?
Yes.
But in this case and today, you're still requesting genetic testing.
Yes.
Now, on December 4, 2025, do you recall that there was an amended motion for temporary orders that was filed on your behalf?
Yes.
At that time, Miss Prince was still pregnant, right?
Your Honor,
Yeah.
I'm going to object to this line of questioning. We are here on a motion for temporary orders that was filed in our First Amendment petition this month in July. So the relief that was being requested pre-birth is no longer being requested today. So I don't think it's relevant.
That would be a valid objection and sustained. Let's move forward to the next question and keep it to the relevant periods. Mr. Castillo, you can proceed.
Yeah, yes, Your Honor. I'm kind of just looking here if I need.
Oh, okay.
Is it also your position that you will be paying 100% of any genetic testing?
Yes, that's fine.
And I think I heard you say it by way of, deference to the comfort of Miss Prince and Oliver, such that although your proposed disposition of issues asks for Oliver to have genetic testing done here in Texas, that's no longer what you're requesting from the court, right?
I'm requesting that the court make an order in the best interest of everyone involved, so.
But not that Oliver or Miss Prince in any way need to travel to Texas for that to get done, right?
Yeah, maybe not explicitly. I think it depends on the conditions and travel schedules of various people. For example, or if Oliver was here right now, then that would be convenient to do it in Texas. I don't want to rule out the possibility of him being in Texas and us doing genetic testing there, but I think it makes more sense for everyone involved if I go to Singapore to do that.
I pass the witness, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Pittman, just a couple of minutes and we got to go on our lunch break.
I'll keep it brief, Your Honor. Mr. Cathis, at the time that we were preparing to propose disposition of issues, did you know whether or not your son was in Texas with Miss Prince?
I do not know that. I did not know that, and I do not know that now, honestly.
So that request in your proposed disposition was contingent on whether, if he was here, you were asking that he be tested while he was here, but you weren't requesting that he be brought here for testing, correct?
Yes, that's my interpretation.
Okay. And I want to briefly touch on something that Mr. Castillo was asking you about. There are some communications that you were being questioned about, and where you identified a window during the summer when it may make sense for you to go to Singapore. And Miss Prince identified that for her, March through May of this year would be better. But you are a grad student, you're a TA. So what obligation did you have here in Austin in person in that time frame, March to May of this year?
During March to May, I was not a TA, but I was a research assistant. But yes, I mean, like in my job description, I'm required to be like on site, and I think we both acknowledged that my provided window of June and her potentially June and her suggested window of March to May like do not overlap. So we will have to discuss further options. But yeah, I was not able to go to Singapore at that time, nor do I have the time or the financial resources.
And my last question or two is about your financial resources as it relates to going to Singapore. Have you priced tickets, round trip tickets for you to go to Singapore?
I've looked a long time ago, so I can't say I can give you an accurate number, but I think like $1,500 is reasonable for tickets. I think Singapore is an expensive country to get a hotel in as well, or cost of living is expensive there. So I think it would be like a unwise financial expense or irresponsible, I would say.
And your pre-tax payment is about $3,000 a month.
Yes.
So that would be half of your take home, or more than half of your take home per month just for airfare, much less lodging and food while you're.
Correct. Yes.
So is it reasonable to say that, accurate to say that you don't have the resources to just do that multiple
Yeah.
times a year or at the drop of a hat?
Yeah, I think that would put me into considerable debt, but I am trying to change my situation such that I can take multiple trips a year to see him.
And that's what you were referring to in your emails to Miss Prince about when you have a job or trying to find a job.
Yes, I think that would make things a lot more realistic and practical.
Okay. I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
I'll be very brief, Your Honor.
Okay.
Mr. Cathis, I think I heard you say that you were unaware whether or not Oliver was in Texas, but you might have thought he was, and that's why you put that specific request in your proposed disposition of issues. Is that right?
Yes.
And when's the last time that you spoke directly to Miss Prince?
I would say maybe roughly a month ago via email.
Does it sound more like it's been maybe a couple of months since you and her have discussed anything directly by phone?
That's correct.
And that's because you have her blocked, right?
Yes.
I pass the witness, Your Honor.
Okay, we're gonna have to take a break. How much longer do you all think you need on this case?
I don't have any more questions for this witness, Your Honor. So I would rest subject to cross-examining Ms. Prince. And I don't think I'm going to take more than 20 or 30 minutes on cross, and I don't know what Mr. Castillo needs.
How about you, Mr. Castillo?
I would range it from about 30 to 45 minutes as well, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. We will go on a lunch break. We'll be back. Let's say 1:45, just to be safe. I have other matters I have to take care of during the lunch break. So let's say 1:45. Thank
Should
you
we-
all. We are adjourned for a brief break. Thank you. Let's call your next witness.
Your Honor, I don't have any personal witnesses, so I would rest subject to cross-examination and a brief closing if the court would like that.
Okay, all right, Mr. Castillo, call your first witness.
I'll call my client, Your Honor, Ms. Prince.
All right, Ms. Prince, you're already under oath. You remain under oath. Mr. Castillo, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Prince, would you state your full name for the record, please?
Sure, it's Rudima Prince.
Where are you currently living now?
I'm currently living in Singapore, but I'm visiting Austin, Texas for a business trip.
And in Singapore, who lives with you there?
I live with my son Oliver, and my mother. My mother comes to visit really often, and my live-in helper.
Okay. Under direct examination and when Mr. Cathis was testifying, there was a lot of discussion about your living situation when you're here in Austin and your work situation. So I kind of want to start giving our background in that area, okay? Please talk to the court about sort of what brought you here, the immigration status that was tied to that, and we'll start there.
Sure. So I've been working for my company Dell Technologies in Singapore for about 10 years, and I got relocated for a new job opportunity here in Austin, Texas, where we're headquartered about 3 or 4 years ago, around February or March 2023. And they relocated me on an L1 inter-company transfer visa that was initially valid for 3 years and just recently got renewed for another 2 years.
Was there anything specific about Austin, Texas, or was that just where the job was relocating you to?
It was just where the job was relocating me to.
Okay, and briefly, you don't have to give up too much details, but kind of moving over to Austin, Texas for that work relocation, what was your intention at the time when you got to Texas?
Well, I just wanted a new career opportunity, a new rotation, and I was intending to stay probably until my visa ran out, or if there were other opportunities, I was willing to consider staying in Austin for that reason, but otherwise I was intending to always return to Singapore.
And I'm going to fast forward a little bit to around the time that you met Mr. Cathis, which I believe was in February of 2025.
That's correct.
I also recall that we heard when his description of was when y'all started a relationship. But again, briefly, you don't have to get into too much details, but I would like for you to talk to the court about what your understanding was of y'all's relationship and how that started, up until when you got pregnant.
Right. So it's pretty much in line to what he described. We met in February 2025. We started a relationship probably in March or so that same year. And we were together, I think, up until sometime in June when we split up while I was on vacation visiting my sister in Europe. And then shortly after, about a week later, I found out that I was pregnant. So I did let him know about that.
And how did you tell him if you are broken up, and what was his response?
We broke up sort of amicably, I'd say somewhat. So I just texted him about it, and I told him I it was a surprise and I wasn't sure what I was going to do about it. And he basically said that he would like to talk about it and try to work things out so that we could raise the child together potentially.
And ultimately, did those conversations bring y'all back together in a kind of committed dating relationship again, or did they stay separate?
It was really patchy actually. So we did try to work it out. It lasted about a week, and then he told me that he changed his mind and he's not ready for it, and that he would prefer if I terminated the pregnancy. And then we broke up again. And then I decided to continue the pregnancy because it was healthy. And so I hadn't heard from him at that point of time for a couple of weeks. So I informed him about it eventually after a few weeks in July that, hey, I'm intending to continue the pregnancy. So let me know what level of involvement you would like to have. Sorry.
I'll ask you, during that time, did he ever question whether or not he was the father?
Not at all. And neither did I.
Obviously, at some point, because through his testimony, we learned that y'all did start talking about what's going to be the plan and where would the baby be born, right?
Yes, that's right. So when I did ask him again in July about the level of involvement that he'd like, we kind of agreed to give it another try. And that's when we like basically started making like arrangements, or we started discussing like what this would look like. And I did let him know that I'd rather like give birth in Singapore, and like at least go through that process there, and that eventually, since we were together, I was okay eventually going back to Texas, or to Austin, and like raising the child here. And that was kind of like the discussion in July when we did get back together.
Was there a thorough discussion about a Singapore plan as well?
At that point of time, so the discussion around the Singapore plan was that I would deliver there, spend maternity leave there, and that he would come. He wanted to be like present for the birth and everything at that point of time. And then we were kind of discussing that like we would come back to Texas sometime in April because of his school and all that stuff, and my job was still here. And that, we'd continue sort of like living here and make childcare arrangements and all that stuff while here. But I was only okay to do it at that time because we were together, because I don't really have any other support in Texas. All my family support and like childcare arrangements, or it's much more affordable in Singapore. So like I didn't have any other reason than being with him to be here with the child.
And at that time, when you're discussing Singapore plan, how long were you talking about staying there?
At that point of time, it was we were still together and discussing this plan. It was basically from the time just before giving birth, so sometime in December, like my last feasible travel date, I guess, because I was already in my last trimester, up till about April or maybe even May, because I was scheduled to come back to work in June, and we wanted to basically like settle in first before I went back to work and arrange for childcare and all that stuff.
And what were going to be the living arrangements while you were in Singapore?
He was supposed to live with me. I had another apartment in Singapore at that point of time, so he was supposed to live with me at this apartment together with our son.
And did the two of you discuss how long he might stay there?
I think we were discussing, it was kind of up in the air a little bit, but we were kind of discussing at least for like a month or two from my recollection.
And how long was the discussion about how long you would stay there?
I think at that point of time, while we were still together, we always like, kind of agreed that it would be at least like April or May.
And did you and Mr. Cathis ever discuss marriage?
Yes, we did.
What was your understanding of those discussions?
So I did say that I'd prefer like getting married and stuff, just because of like the international nature, I guess, like because we're citizens of different countries, and also because basically I know that he wanted to remain living in the like States, and that's because of like his career opportunities in his field. But the reason why I kind of like was exploring marriage was mainly for practical reasons, because I'm here only on an L1 visa. I don't have any other ties to this country. And also being on an L1 visa means that I'm tied to one location with my job. And when we were discussing his future or his potential career opportunities, he mentioned that he would either be in Austin or the Bay Area, or I think New York. But that would also mean that like he would have to move if he wasn't in Austin, and I wouldn't be able to move because my job requires me to be on site 5 days a week in the Austin office in particular. So that would make kind of things a bit more easier. I don't with regards to like immigration status, if we were married, like so that I could kind of move with him.
Okay. And now, before this case was filed, did Mr. Cathis ever tell you Oliver had to be born in Texas?
No, but I did ask him if he preferred like it was an option. I did offer it up as an option. I was like, I do prefer giving birth in Singapore, but if it's easier for you and like your school schedule and all that, because he is due to graduate this year, like I'd be happy to like do it in Austin if that works better. And I'll just ask maybe my mom to come here and like stay for a little bit just so that I have some support. And he declined that. I mean, he said that whatever I was comfortable with would be fine. So that's why I ultimately made the decision to go to Singapore, especially given I was doing it alone at that time.
And I mean, did he ever before this lawsuit or since then tell you that Oliver had to live in Texas?
No,
Have you ever denied that Mr. Cathis is Oliver's father?
no, I have not.
Have you ever identified anyone else as as Oliver's father?
No, I have not.
What have you consistently told Mr. Cathis about his relationship to Oliver?
I think we both like accepted that he's the father. We've never, I think neither of us have ever doubted that.
Did you learn that he does doubt that?
Just through the court doc or his recent filings, or through this session.
What information did you give Mr. Cathis when Oliver was born?
I sent him pictures immediately. I think right from the start, even when my water broke, he was the first person that I actually reached out to and informed about the situation. So I was like keeping him updated basically every step of the way. I did offer him to video call Oliver as soon as I got to see him, because he was taken to the NICU like immediately after delivery, so I didn't get to actually see him for 13 or 14 hours after delivery. And I've been offering him information pretty much voluntarily ever since he was born. Even he doesn't really ask or keep in touch about him.
And regarding the documents or instructions that you provided to help establish parentage, to your knowledge, did he complete those steps?
No, I sent him the documents, I think sometime in late December or early January. And then he just kind of like acknowledged it and never got back till this very day.
Did he explain why he didn't complete them?
No, it was just never mentioned again.
Have you ever tried to prevent Mr. Cathis from being legally recognized as Oliver's father?
No, I have not.
Are you willing to cooperate with genetic testing?
Yes.
Are you willing to use a qualified facility in Singapore?
Yes, absolutely.
Since Oliver was born, what has Mr. Cathis sent to him?
He sends letters to him on a monthly basis on on his birth date, every single month. So like by snail mail. He has also like provided financial support, but it's always sort of after I ask. It's never been like proactive. He has sent some gifts. He sent like books. He's also sent some toys. And sometimes I like once in a while, if there's like a big purchase to be made or like something significant, I do ask if he wants to if he'd be willing to contribute or if he can contribute. And every now and then he would contribute to it.
How does Mr. Cathis identify himself in those cards?
Initially it was Alex, and then it turned to Dad. He signs off as Dad, but initially he signed off as Alex.
Was it confusing to you to be getting those cards and then get a request for genetic testing?
Yes.
After Oliver was born, what have you done to try and keep Mr. Cathis informed?
I would send him a lot of pictures and videos of Oliver, like unprompted. Every now and then I'd even send him like updates about what he's doing or like his developmental like status. To this day, even though I'm blocked on WhatsApp, I do send him emails. Like when Oliver got sick, for example, in May, he had like a really high fever, so I had to bring him to the emergency room, and we had to stay in the hospital for 2 nights. So I've informed him about basically all the major things, I feel.
I heard you say that since you've been blocked, what is your understanding of why you're currently blocked for communication through WhatsApp?
I do agree that we have like the communication between us is pretty
Oh,
hostile.
one moment, I can't hear you anymore. I lost your audio.
Is it me or?
Okay, now we're good. Okay. Okay, now I can hear you. I lost your audio for maybe a few seconds.
Sorry.
Okay. I don't know where you stopped that I didn't catch.
One moment, Judge, I can.
Okay.
I do agree that we have communication between us is pretty hostile, and that's where you stopped.
All right. Okay. So I'll just pick up from there then. Yeah, it is pretty hostile, but at that point of time, I think the last communication or the last exchange over WhatsApp or text, which was our normal method of communication till then, I was asking Alex if he was still intending to, like, what are his longer term plans about like where he's going to live, and if he was intending to be in Austin. And the reason for this was because I knew that I would have to come back to Austin for work right after maternity leave, at least for a couple of weeks. And I didn't want to be apart from Oliver, of course. And I was willing to like bring Oliver along to Austin, provided that I'd have some help with childcare, like whether that's him taking, because I do need to be in the office 5 days a week. So whether that's him taking care of Oliver directly and watching over him while I'm at work, or arranging for other like childcare or anything like that, like then I would have brought him. But in the absence of that, it was just a bit difficult. So he became a bit unresponsive when I was asking him about Austin, and then I clarified like it's not a trick question and it's for this reason. And I was told to just do, quote unquote, just do whatever you want, uh, and I'll try to accommodate. And then I just got kind of upset or worked up about it because I'm being sued, and at the same time, like for parental rights or some involvement in Oliver's life, and every time I offer it up, there's no like commitment or anything like no practical steps taken to actually be involved. So I got upset about it and I told him to stay petty, and then he blocked me.
And have you though still attempted to send communication about Oliver by way of videos or text messages? I'm sorry, videos or pictures?
Yes, every now and then I do, but it's definitely not the same frequency as it was before, because I feel like at this point I'm just forcing the relationship or being the relationship manager, and he doesn't seem to show much interest like spontaneously. So I feel like I'm just forcing it down his throat and sending him unsolicited pictures and videos and updates of Oliver. So I kind of stopped, but every now and then I do make a request every month that he contribute at least to Oliver's childcare, which is the nanny, because I do have to work. So like I do need help with that because I'm already covering everything else anyway. Um, so when I do send him those requests, every now and then I'll like attach, I don't know, 10 photos or videos or some update about Oliver. But I just do it much like less now than I did at the beginning. Probably once a month or once every 2 months.
In these past months, and you don't have to get into the details, but in these past 7 months, have there been attempts and communication between you and Mr. Cathis about trying to get him to visit Oliver in Singapore?
Uh, yes, up until March, I think I asked him probably 2 or 3 times, like when does like he intend to visit, and to let me know like with notice, because I do need to get back to work, and that would be more convenient if he arranged for it while before I get back to work, so that I can sort of like facilitate it.
What about electronic communication? Have you ever tried to deny that?
No, he's welcome to video call as long as he like lets me know in advance. I think he's only seen Oliver on video twice since he's been born, and the first time was when he was in the NICU immediately after he was born, and the second time was sometime in February, and both times were offered up by me.
And so whether there's been a court order or not, do you see that there's been any disputes regarding parentage or support?
No, I don't think so. I feel like I'm trying to offer up whatever I can with regards to him having access to Oliver or like having some kind of relationship with him, but I just feel at this point I'm sort of the one who's always initiating it, and I kind of stopped doing that because there doesn't seem to be like interest on his part to do that proactively. So I don't want to force it.
I pass it, Mr. Honor.
All right, Mr. Pittman.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Ms. Prince. We've never spoken, correct? We've only communicated through counsel.
Yes, that's correct. Good afternoon.
Okay. One thing I want to ask, which is, dovetailing off some of your testimony towards the end of your direct
Mhm.
about you being blocked on WhatsApp due to the hostile communication that you described. Were you made aware that there was a request through council to move communications from WhatsApp to Our Family Wizard?
Yes, I saw it in one of the communications, yes.
Okay. But that hasn't happened. Y'all are not communicating through Our Family Wizard or that manner right now, are you?
No.
I also want to ask you about some of the relief that you're requesting. I'm going to share my screen with you. On the screen is your motion that we're here on, the plea to jurisdiction, motion to debate, and request for court to decline jurisdiction. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I do.
Your pleading, your live pleading, the one we're here today, says that you, Rudima Prince, request this court to decline jurisdiction and dismiss this case, or alternatively, stay the proceedings on the condition that a custody proceeding will be promptly commenced in Singapore because Texas is an inconvenient forum to make a child custody determination under the circumstances of this case. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
So the exact same relief that
One moment, Mr. Pittman. Ms. Prince, I just asked that and direct you that you say yes or no instead of
Right, right.
huh.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Right,
Mr.
yes.
Pittman, I had to interrupt you because I want a clear record. Go ahead.
Thank you, Judge. So the exact same relief that Mr. Cathis is asking for is also the relief that's requested in your live pleading, correct?
Yes.
I want to ask you a couple of questions about making sure I heard things right about your testimony. So did I hear you right that you said that your L1 visa was going to expire, but it has been renewed for 2 more years? Is that correct?
Yes, that's right. It just got renewed in June.
Okay. So you do have a current valid L1 visa to work and live in the United States, is that correct?
Yes.
You also indicated during your direct examination that in your recounting of the conversations leading up to Oliver being born, that Mr. Cathis agreed for you to go to Singapore to give birth, correct?
Yes, correct.
And you also said that you knew that even under the best case scenario, he'd only be there for, I think you said 1 to 2 months. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And you also said during your direct that the discussion prior to this lawsuit, at least, was that you would stay in Singapore until April or May. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And what wasn't said, what I want to verify is it also correct that the discussions were after April or May, you would return to Texas, to the Austin area with Oliver? Is that correct?
Yes, at that point of time when we were still together, yes, that's correct.
Thank you for that. You also testified that you were surprised to know that Mr. Cathis was asking for genetic testing and that you only learned of that recently. Did I hear that right?
Yes, that's right.
However, you're aware that the request for genetic testing was in Mr. Cathis's original petition that you were served with in November of last year, correct?
Yes.
And you're aware that when we were here in December, that was one of his requests at that time, was that there be genetic testing ordered after Oliver was born, correct?
Yes.
And you're aware that Mr. Cathis amended his petition earlier this month and it still contained a request for genetic testing, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So Mr. Cathis has consistently asked for that. It's not something that was new in the last week or few days, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Let me see. I want to ask you just a few more clarifying questions. What is your role with Dell? What's your position?
I work in supply chain as basically a program manager, consultant.
Okay. And you did not prepare a proposed support decision for today's hearing, did you?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
You did not prepare what's called a proposed support decision showing your income and your expenses, did you?
No, I did not.
Okay. So let me ask you some questions then. What is your either annual or monthly income?
My annual is about 189,000 US dollars
US? Okay.
pre-tax.
And you obviously have the ability to travel from Singapore to Austin, correct?
Yes.
And you have been able to, and you were personally served with this lawsuit while you were in Austin, Texas back in October of last year, correct?
Yes, correct.
And you were still living in Austin, in Texas, at the time you were served with this lawsuit.
Correct.
And you filed an answer in this case in November of last year, correct?
That's correct.
And I'm going to show you, it's already in evidence. It's your supporting declaration. So let me share my screen. This is Petitioner's Exhibit 6, which has been previously admitted. This is Rudima Prince's supporting declaration. And you signed this on November 24th, 2025, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And so you stated at that time in November of last year that my current US address is 201 Lavaca Street, apartment 614, Austin, Texas 78701, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So you were a resident, a legal resident. You had valid work status, and you were residing in Texas and in Austin at the time this lawsuit was commenced and the time you filed your answer, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
In that statement, let me show you again one more time. There's one more question I want to ask you about it, but I forgot to ask you. You stated, under penalty of perjury, I'm sorry about that highlighting. I will not be returning permanently to the US after my child's birth and will be raising my child in Singapore, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
However, that's inconsistent with the discussions you and Mr. Cathis had that you testified about, correct?
Yes, that's correct. Well, it's not sorry, let me take that back. The discussions me and Mr. Cathis had were subject to us like being together so that I had somebody to help with raising Oliver here. But I've always told him that if I were to raise Oliver on my own or like without him in the picture or like if we weren't together, I'd rather do it in Singapore because that's where my entire support system is. And also because it's much more accessible, like financially and practically to have like hired help in Singapore versus here. I literally do not have any family or friends or any like support system here besides Alex. And now that we are not together, it would make it very difficult for me to actually like raise Oliver here and maintain my career. So that's kind of the reason why.
However, you don't have a writing or anything where you can show us that until this declaration, where you told Mr. Cathis that you were not intending to return to the US after your maternity leave was over, do you?
I don't because we were not talking to each other at all at that point.
Let me show you what's already in evidence as Petitioner's Exhibit number 5. So these are emails between you and Mr. Cathis. They've already been admitted. These emails were through even after your date of your declaration, but they predated it as well. They started in mid-November. Your first email in this chain was November 15th, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And in response to that, Mr. Cathis talked about that he intended to have discussions with you, and he said, quote, if you believe alternative arrangements are needed for the well-being and safety of both you and the baby, I am open to discussing other options, including taking on direct caregiving responsibility for our child in the United States. So you were not together on November 21st of last year, correct? You'd already ended
That's
your
correct.
relationship.
Yes, that's
I'm
correct.
sorry, you were speaking at the same time. Your question again, sir? So you were not,
You were not in a romantic relationship. Your romantic relationship had ended at the time of this email, correct?
That's correct.
And so Mr. Cathis, even though your relationship was ended, was still discussing direct caregiving in the United States, correct?
He was this proposing that. Yes, that's correct.
And in your response, you said, I think the dates are a little bit
I think it's
weird
because of the time zone
because of the time
difference.
zone.
Yeah.
Yes, but you responded to that email saying, in partial, quote, given your current academic demands, limited availability, and limited resources, your direct caregiving responsibility in the United States is not practical nor realistic at this stage. You didn't say that you would never be coming back. You were saying for at this stage it would not be practical, correct?
Well, yes, that's correct.
Okay, and this is just a few days before you sign that declaration. That's already in evidence, right?
That's right.
And in his response, Mr. Cathis' response, he still mentioned in response that he was, quote, exploring childcare options in the US. So it was an ongoing conversation right up until that petition, or that, I guess, plea of the jurisdiction was filed with that declaration about whether or not you would return to the US after Oliver was born, correct?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
There was still an ongoing conversation about whether and when you would return to the United States after Oliver was born, correct?
I would not take this as a conversation or about me returning to the United States.
But nowhere in these emails, when Mr. Cathis is suggesting that he's exploring childcare options in the US, when you're saying at this stage as feasible, nowhere in that email is there a statement that I am not returning to the United States, correct?
That statement is not explicitly there. That's correct.
Okay. And to be clear, there is no court proceeding that's been instigated or commenced in Singapore, correct?
That is correct. There's nothing there.
Okay. And even though you filed your plea of jurisdiction in November of last year, asking for the court to abate the proceedings conditioned on you promptly commencing a custody suit, that has not happened since Oliver's been born, and he's 7 months old today, correct?
That's correct, but I don't think I made a commitment to commence any custody proceedings in Singapore at that point of time.
Well, I think your pleading speaks for itself. And the last thing I want to ask you about is that you're currently in Texas, correct?
That is correct.
How long ago did you arrive here in Texas?
About 5 weeks ago or 6 weeks ago.
And when do you return to Singapore?
Tomorrow.
Okay. And you did not bring Oliver with you, correct?
I did not.
Even though he is old enough to travel, there's no medical reasons that he could not have traveled to the United States with you, correct?
There are no medical reasons besides him having his vaccination scheduled for while I was here. But there's also no way for me to go to work and no one to leave him with while I'm at work here.
And I understand you discussed with Mr. Castillo and you discussed with me about the lack of communication, so I can't make the past different. But do you understand that Mr. Cathis would have wanted you to bring Oliver here so he could meet his son here in the United States?
This is exactly why I was asking him in March whether he would be here. I was intending to bring him along so that he could meet his father, and also, but I was requesting for help from him, and I did not get any commitment on that. I do not have an apartment in Austin of my own. I don't have baby equipment. I don't have anything here. It's quite a big ask for me to like bring a 7-month-old on a business trip with no help and like no equipment and nothing, and like expecting me to do all of that on my own just for the benefit of Alex meeting his child when he has not made any effort to reach out or make any arrangements himself, even when offered.
So instead, you thought it was better for your son and Mr. Cathis's son as well, to stay with substitute caregivers with a live-in nanny and his grandmother rather than being cared for by his other parent, by his father, while you were in the United States?
He did not commit to caring for him while I was here, so I didn't have any other option. It's very difficult for me to be away for this long from my son too. This is not like a preferred option at all for me.
And there was no communication through counsel about that, correct? You did not ask your attorney to reach out to me to see if Mr. Cathis could make arrangements for that.
Yep.
Did-
Your
No, I
Honor, I'm gonna object to relevance at this point.
Response on the objection to relevance?
Your Honor, I think Ms. Prince opened the door during, and Mr. Castillo frankly opened the door during his direct about Mr. Cathis's blocking her and having, you know, lack of interest. And I'm trying to explore that, what they opened about, that she did not make any other actions to try to coordinate anything to bring Mr. or to bring Oliver here during the time that she was here.
Your Honor, if the door is open, it's also been closed on these issues. They don't communicate.
I'm gonna sustain the objection. Let's move on.
Your Honor, I'll pass the witness.
I'll be brief, Your Honor. Miss Prince, prior to Oliver being born, how would you describe Mr. Cathis's interest in your pregnancy?
I think initially when he first found out, he was very lukewarm about it. I think throughout the pregnancy, it's always been up and down and pretty inconsistent. I think sometime in July, the interest in it kind of spiked, probably July, August, and then it completely died down. He would go for doctor's appointments when asked to come with, or like if he'd want to attend. He would generally attend them, except when he absolutely couldn't. But he would not even participate when at the doctor's appointments with me. He was just quiet, showed no interest, to the point even the doctors and nurses were kind of asking me like if everything's okay.
So let me ask, and again, prior to Oliver being born, how often, if at all, did Mr. Cathis question whether or not the child was going to be his?
Oh, he's never questioned it throughout the pregnancy.
So was it surprising to you to then get served with a lawsuit that's asking for genetic testing?
Yes, a little.
When Oliver was born and afterwards, and for the small bit of time that y'all did communicate, how often, if at all, did Mr. Cathis directly to you in your communications question whether or not he was Oliver's father?
He's never questioned it.
So was it surprising to you then to get more pleadings requesting genetic testing?
Yes, yes.
There was also a discussion about the emails or the emails and text messages that were sent prior to Oliver being born. What is your understanding of, you know, any of specific relationship that you had with Alex at that point and during that time frame?
Sorry, which time frame are you referring to?
Which is, you know, those emails and text messages that Mr. Pittman went through during his cross-examination. They kind of cover roughly a time frame of 3 or 4 months during your pregnancy.
Right.
How would you describe that 3 or 4 months regarding y'all's relationship with Mr. Cathis?
I think at some points of those text messages we were together, but other times we were like broken up and just bickering.
And so did that influence decisions that you were making at that time?
Yes, absolutely. I had to like repivot and change all my plans, knowing that I'd have to do this alone.
Did the birth of Oliver, you know, cause another one of those maybe reorientation of plans?
Yes, absolutely. Like I could not imagine like doing it here with minimal support already. I mean, given also that Alex was on and off, interested, not interested, even during the pregnancy, or sometimes participating and sometimes not. So I couldn't imagine like doing it completely 100% on my own in a foreign country where I don't have stable immigration status besides my job.
In or around that time that I filed the plea to jurisdiction on your behalf, did you believe or think that you would be engaged in this sort of litigation for this amount of time?
No.
Did you think that over this course of 7 months that maybe there would have been some relationship and or event or activity that would have occurred between him and Oliver in Singapore?
Yes, and I would hope that even if it wasn't a in-person visit, that it would be at least video calls or or something of that nature, something more like regular.
At that time that you made that statement or comment about promptly commencing a lawsuit over there, did you think an order was even going to be necessary?
No, and also I did not commence anything there because I'm the only parent listed on the birth certificate because Alex has not taken any actions to get listed on it. So after like researching and discussing with lawyers there's nothing for me to request for in Singapore. I shouldn't be the party filing for anything because I already have like 100% access and custody and everything.
I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
All right, anything else?
Briefly, Your Honor, I do have a couple, maybe a handful, I don't want to say a couple of follow-up questions. Ms. Prince, I want to go back to the line of questioning about the request for genetic testing. So you said that, or Mr. Castillo asked you a question that you answered about filing the plea of jurisdiction, that you didn't think that it was necessary to basically do all of this, but you're doing what you need to kind of protect yourself legally, correct? Is that
Correct.
okay? And can you understand that that's the same thing related to the request for genetic testing, that Mr. Cathis is trying to protect himself legally as well?
Well, yes.
And we're here on your plea. You're not considering jurisdiction as it relates to custody determination. I understand that. But do you understand that you didn't have to bring that? You could have had the entire, not just piecemeal, but the entire case resolved here in Texas where Mr. Cathis lives, where you resided, where Oliver was conceived.
Sorry, what was the question exactly?
Do you understand that you don't have to, in every case like this, bring the defenses that you're bringing? You could have consented to both personal and subject matter jurisdiction for all aspects of this case, but you chose to defend yourself, to bring this plea, correct?
Yes, correct.
And because you did that, do you understand why Mr. Cathis may not want to commence a suit in Singapore for similar reasons, to protect himself legally?
Your Honor, I'm going to object to compound and speculation.
I'm going to overrule that objection.
Did you hear my question, Ms. Prince?
Yes, that he, sorry, can you just
I think you should ask it again. And at this point, a lot of what you're asking is not helping me.
Understood, Your Honor.
I think you should know when your time is being used correctly and when it's not. And the information you're trying to withdraw or obtain doesn't help me in the decision that I have to make today.
I hear you loud and clear, Your Honor. I will withdraw the question and I'll pass the witness.
Mr. Castillo, anything else?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Any other witness?
No, Your Honor. We rest.
Okay. I don't believe that for these limited issues that I need a closing from either side, but I am going to take about a 10-minute break and I'll come back with the ruling. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
All right. So the court's ruling is the following. The court has jurisdiction under Chapter 160 of the Texas Family Code. However, I want to be very clear that the court is concluding that it cannot make an initial child custody determination because the court finds that the child's home state is Singapore. The limitation is going to reach only, I am going to do an abatement. But again, my limitation as it relates to the plea has to do only with the claims for conservatorship and possession and access of the child, not the parentage or support claims. I am going to abate, again, only the claims for conservatorship and possession of and access to the child, and I'm going to do that for a period of 6 months. I am going to condition it. The court's going to rule and order that it be conditioned that Ms. Prince promptly commence child custody proceedings in Singapore, and that if she does not commence it and diligently proceed with it, then that abatement will be lifted, and this court will render final orders on all issues. 6 months should be more than enough time. However, I want to also be clear that the father is the one, the presumed father, Mr. Cathis, is asking for genetic testing. So genetic testing needs to happen before this court is willing to do any other rulings. And the court's going to order that he travel to Singapore at his expense and that he pay 100% of any costs related to genetic testing. So he travels to Singapore. He coordinates with Miss Prince. He pays 100% of all of those travel expenses. He pays 100% of all of the genetic testing that he is now asking for. And so in terms of mediation, I'm hesitant to do anything else because I don't know at this point whether he's the father of this child or not. And he's asking for genetic testing, which means he has his doubts. So we've got to get that done. I'm worried about the beginning the order with the abatement before before we have the genetic testing done. And so I don't want to, one of the things that I'm thinking about is, what if there's genetic testing and the child is not the child of Mr. Cathis? And now I've ordered Miss Prince to start these proceedings in a foreign country at great expense, and he's not the biological father of the child. And so I'm asking, that's a problem. And so I want to account for that in the order because I don't want to be wasteful of anybody's time, resources, or money. And so we need to really get to the bottom of, get the genetic testing done. And so I'm asking for your feedback for the attorneys on how you would think would be a good way you can suggest to structure this, because I don't think that it's correct to have mother's time start ticking for her to file all these things in Singapore if we haven't even gone through the genetic testing. And the one requesting genetic testing is Mr. Cathis, so the burden is all on him. So I'm ready for suggestions.
Your Honor, I haven't spoken with my client about his schedule ability to go there and do that, so I don't know specifics, but my suggestion, without having had that conversation, would be to order both parties to participate in that within a certain time period, whatever that time period may be. I don't want to offer something without talking to him. And then once the results are received, that's when that 6-month period that the court's ordering would start ticking.
Well, that's what I'm saying is I don't want the time to start ticking. She shouldn't have to go. Ms. Prince shouldn't have to go file anything if genetic testing comes out and Mr. Cathis is not the father. We wouldn't be in this position if he wasn't asking for genetic testing, but he is. And the burden has to be on him because he's making that request. So, do you have any questions, Mr. Castillo, or any feedback? But the order of the court is that no time starts ticking at all until the genetic testing is done. But maybe Mr. Cathis can't go to Singapore in the next 30 days or the next 3 months. And so I can give him 6 months for that. I can say he has to be there within 6 months to get this done and coordinate it with Miss Prince. I'm not ordering Miss Prince to come over here to do genetic testing and to bring a baby. here from Singapore for a request Mr. Cathis is making. Let me be clear, I am not doing that. But he's asking for it, so I can give him 6 months to do the genetic testing. He can go there. He can pay all his expenses. He can pay for the flight. He can pay for genetic testing. And then once we have those results, then the abatement would begin. And then I would be comfortable ordering some mediation. But right now, I'm not going to order mediation. I'm just going to abate and order genetic testing.
And given that I know that Mr. Pittman needs time to talk to his client, I would say, Your Honor, that's been our whole position or issue, is that it will all be dependent on Mr. Cathis and his schedule and
I understand. I don't disagree with your position. Mr. Cathis, if I give you 6 months to get genetic testing done and then abate for another 6 months, is that enough time for you?
Yes, I think that's reasonable and like fair to all parties. I think like
I think
maybe
6 months would be enough time to get all this coordinated, even with you being in the position that you're in. 6 months gives you enough time to buy a ticket with plenty of notice, to find the best pricing, to try to travel during a weekday and days that are more affordable. And so I'm thinking you have 6 months to do genetic testing, and then the time doesn't start to tick until we have the official results, which should be filed with the court.
Understood, Your Honor. And do I understand correctly that I guess the motion for mediation is also abated pending those results? Is that my understanding? Or that is my understanding, but
I'm not gonna rule on the motion for mediation because honestly, it's premature. Once you make the claim that you want to have genetic testing, all else kind of stops, because that's step number one. If there was acknowledged paternity, then it would be a different result. But once you make that claim, then we have to rule that out. Once that's ruled out, then if he is the father and he's genetically the father of this child, he's the biological father of this child, then my ruling stands on the fact that it's the home state. Singapore is the home state. And I think the law is clear under the Texas Family Code, under Section 160, on what I can proceed and what I cannot proceed on. And I've looked at all the case law, and we're very limited here. I do think, Ms. Prince, after genetic testing, it would be better for the entire family for this to be filed in Singapore, where the child resides. I think it would be more efficient. I think that at that point, once you file that you all can actually mediate here in the United States and present that to a court there. I think that's very doable, and you can mediate remotely. You can do mediation via Zoom nowadays, so it's very doable. And you have enough income to be able to file your case in Singapore, certainly. So I think that'll make things easier for you than to have to continue managing things in multiple countries. What is your position?
Okay, I can do that.
Okay, but step number one is step number one is the genetic testing. If she does initiate the Singapore case, and she's telling me on the record that she will, then I think that makes everything a lot easier for everybody involved. I think I'm hearing, Mr. Cathis, your concern is you want to make sure everything is, you want things documented so that the responsibilities are spelled out, and also so that paternity is adjudicated for this child.
Yes, that's correct, Your Honor.
And so if she files in Singapore and it could proceed there, do you anticipate having issues with that?
No, I do not.
Okay. So let's do that. Mr. Pittman, you draft the order. And Mr. Castillo, I need you to review it. And again, nothing starts ticking until genetic testing is done, 6 months for that. And then the rest of the rulings coming and the time starts ticking. But if Ms. Prince files in Singapore, unless that court says for some reason they can't proceed, which I can't imagine it. The child was born there, the child has lived there, he's 7 months old. You all should be able to proceed and close out the case in Singapore. Any questions for me in terms of what I'm looking for in this order?
Madam President, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Pittman, how long for you to draft?
I can probably get, I don't want to overpromise. I would say 2 weeks for sure. I'll try to do faster, but I think I can get it in 2 weeks.
Mr. Castillo, how long for you to review it?
At least 10 days, Your Honor.
Okay, so 2 weeks, let's take a look, because I put this in my docket notes, what the timeline is I gave you. So 2 weeks is the 14th, and then you said 10 days, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so let's say by August 26th, I need an order agreed as to form. And if you don't have an order by August the 26th, either one of you, Mr. Castillo or Mr. Pittman, you can reach out to me for a motion to enter and we'll get that order entered. But I hope that's not the case now that we have some clarity in terms of the steps we're going to take to proceed. And I think once that's resolved, I think Ms. Prince understands what she needs to do. I understand what Mr. Cathis wants to establish. We should be able to have this case on track and proceed in Singapore.
Understood, Your Honor. Thank you.
Any other questions from anybody, including Ms. Prince or Mr. Cathis, for me regarding the order?
No, Your Honor.
Ms.
None
Prince?
from me, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. Thank you. You're excused. I'll be waiting for the order. Have a good afternoon.